Well, you know what? 8 signs that you're healing means you learn things every day. Oh my goodness. Would you all breathe with me, please? Take it in. And again. And one more time. Nice. I just love our teaching called the science of mind. We may be called Centers for Spiritual Living, but what we teach is called the science of mind. And the teaching itself, the books that we base it on, everything that we are based on gives us so many wonderful practices, and it gives us tools, and it gives us encouragement for spiritual growth and healing. In fact, we are known as a healing teaching. Emma Curtis Hopkins was considered a healer. Dr. Ernest Holmes is considered a healer. We are a healing teaching. In other words, we believe that between the power of our minds and in partnership with the power of the universe, we can heal our lives. Physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, financially, anything that may be happening in your world right now. In fact, our founder, Ernest Holmes, said this. He said, the greatest discovery ever made is the discovery of the creative power of thought. Our thought can help us in healing our body, and it can help us control the circumstances and situations around us. Yeah! Woo! I'm excited. So it reminds me of a story. There's this uber religious Bible-based couple, and they decide that they want to get a new dog for their family. So they go to an uber religious Bible-based pet store, and they go and look at all the different dogs that are available. And the pet store owner says, this dog is trained in everything. It knows its way through the Bible. Every trick it knows comes straight from the Bible. And the couple says, well, we want that dog. So they buy the dog, they take it home, and they have some friends come over, and they said, we want to show you this amazing new dog that we have. And they say to the dog, okay, find the 23rd Psalm. And the dog goes over and gets the Bible, and it starts thumbing through this little dog fingers, and it finds a 23rd Psalm. And the people are like, that's pretty cool. And they said, find, what's in the Bible verse? Something else. And the dog... dog finds it. Okay, and the people are really impressed. The couple, the friends are really impressed. But they said, but can the dog do any, regular tricks? And the couple said, well, we don't know. So they said to the dog, heel. And the dog runs over to the man, puts his paw on his thing, and bows his head. Really, newcomer lady? So all joking aside, I've seen remarkable growth. I've seen remarkable changes in people through the years, and I myself have gone through incredible changes and growth and healing in my own life. The challenge that I sometimes find is that in this teaching, we focus a lot about growth and expansion and taking risks and going to the green growing edges and all that stuff. And then we don't take the time to actually acknowledge the healing that we have experienced along the way. You understand what I'm saying? To actually take a look at it. So today, that's what we're going to do. We're going to take a look at 8 subtle but very profound signs that we are healing. But because they're not like grand demonstrations, we may not recognize them as such. So the first one is that we find ourselves more observing and less judging. So ask yourself this. Haven't you found that as you've come to understand that the divine is in everything and that everyone and everything is part of the divine, don't you find yourself being less judgy? Yeah, me too. The reason for that is that as we look through the eyes of love and acceptance, we can acknowledge that even though people may be doing things that we don't agree with or thinking things that we don't agree with them, they have their reasons for doing it. It's their belief. One of the phrases that helps me work through that, especially when somebody's like, I think to myself, so I don't say it out loud because that would be judgy, but I do think it in my mind. I wonder what you used to tell yourself you thought that was a good idea. Wonder what you used in your thinking that told you that was a good idea. And you know what? These days it's really hard, especially in the social and the political climate that we find ourselves in. Sometimes it takes all of my higher consciousness thinking to not want to shout to people, "Are you out of your mind?" Anybody else? But really, I want you to hear this. This is going to be a hard truth. If somebody truly believes what they believe, how can they be wrong? It's their belief. And beliefs are not wrong. They're just beliefs. Now, of course, that may not keep us from shaking our heads and thinking, oh my God, what are you thinking? But most of the time, rather than being judgy anymore, I find myself kind of bemused, a little bit like, now that's not a judgy look, right? This is a judgy look. This is not a judgy look. I've been playing with emojis too much. But here's the bottom line. Oh my gosh, this one's hard. Who are we to judge others? So a sign of healing is that we can separate the belief from the believer and love them anyway. Yes? Let's move on. More responding, less reacting. So here's the difference. When something triggers us and we react, and you know what I'm talking about, right? Sometimes it's coming from that reptilian part of our brain that is mindless and it's automatic. It doesn't have any filters. But we got to cut it a little bit of break because its job is to protect us. Its job is to cause us to react when something dangerous is coming toward us. So we don't want to judge it too harshly. We just need to let it sleep until there's really a time necessary to react. Another time that reactions happen is that when we've got those old belief systems, been around a really, really long time, and they're deeply embedded. That from before we had our spiritual work. So that's reaction. Responding comes from a spiritually mature place. So that when we respond, we take the information in, we let it go through our filters, which are our awakening filters. We decide what the best course of action with the information that we have is, and then respond from a higher place in consciousness. Doesn't mean that we don't still react sometimes, but as we heal, we find ourselves responding more and reacting yet less. Yes? Is that a true? Okay, here's another one. More self-love, less self-sabotage. Gotta tell you, this one still really challenges me. There's no question that I love myself more than I used to, but I'm still really hard on myself. Anybody else? Yeah. And I self-sabotage. I overeat, I work too much, I don't move enough, I say unkind things to myself, I overthink like crazy sometimes, and I allow myself to get distracted. Anybody else? And as they say in the 12 steps, progress rather than promotion. What is wrong with me today? Nothing? Self-love. I love you. You're a good girl. You're a good minister, really you are. Progress rather than perfection. So I really do believe that. So what I choose to do is to recognize the progress instead, to acknowledge the ways that I really do love myself and I take care of myself. I'm really good at self-care. I get massages. I take days off. It's like, don't call me, I'm on a day off. But I also recognize that I still have some healing to do in this arena. So it really is progress rather than perfection. Next one, more boundaries, less resentments. That is a really good indicator of healing because it means that we are able to say no to something that is not serving us and not feel guilty about it. Can I get an amen? Can I get some clapping there? Because as we do our work and as we heal our need to please, our need to be liked, our need to be in control, our need to be involved in everything, and we recognize the importance of self-care and self-love, we can set boundaries instead of doing things that we don't want to do and build resentments. And I know some of you know what I'm talking about. How many times have you agreed to something you knew in your heart of hearts you did not want to do, you did it anyway, and then you were pissed off the whole time? Yes? No. Problem is, that doesn't do anybody any good. It doesn't do the people that you're doing it for any good because who wants to be around that energy? And it doesn't do us any good. Whereas when we set boundaries lovingly, thoughtfully, and clearly, we don't develop resentments. So healthy boundaries are absolutely a sign of healing and of self-love. So the next one is more inner peace and less outer chaos. I think this is my favorite one. I have several of them that I really love, but this is maybe my favorite byproduct of healing. Do we have any former drama queens in the crowd here? Any? Okay, not very many. Drama kings? Okay, yeah, former. I was one of those people that could go from 0 to 60 in the drama department faster than anybody I know. But here's what's the deal. As I have been healing, I just don't anymore. I just don't do drama. Yeah, I'm a little dramatic up here, but in my life, I don't do drama anymore. Ever since I learned the practices of meditation and spiritual mind treatment and breathing and yoga and doing affirmations and taking classes, I find that I live most of the time in a place of inner peace. Truly, I do. And the byproduct of inner peace is that I also find my outside world to be much more peaceful as well. Strange how that works. A friend of mine coined a phrase, I remain calm in the midst of whatever. I remain calm in the midst of whatever. And it's absolutely true, because the more peaceful I am inside, the more that I am able to stay peaceful, even when the world of effect appears to be going to hell in a handbasket. I can be zen in the midst of that. Because as we heal, as we gain a greater understanding of how the universe works, as our worldview lifts so that we are seeing from a higher perspective, we see that the things that we thought were really big deals aren't really big deals. They're just life. And life comes and goes. Drama comes and goes. It changes. It adjusts. And eventually it straightens out. Yes? Yeah. So when we understand that we live in an orderly universe, even when it doesn't look like it is, we can remain calm in the midst of what appears to be chaos. Dr. Holmes put it this way: real peace of mind comes only from a deep and an abiding faith in the universe, in this thing called life, and in the power greater than we are. So the next sign that we are healing is more clarity and less confusion. To me, this goes hand in hand with inner peace. Wouldn't you agree? Having clarity, because when I allow myself to go within, that I really go to that place of inner peace, that I am really getting in touch with my higher self, and I listen, I find that clarity comes and confusion dissipates. I would love to say that it's natural and it's an automatic thing, but that is not my experience. My experience is it takes practice, and it takes discipline, and it takes patience to learn how to listen, because we have these really active minds. You've heard of the monkey mind, right? I gotta do this, I gotta do that. Blah, blah. They're active, and there's confusion all the time. But part of healing means that we learn the art of slowing it down, even for a moment. Deepak Chopra talks about the gap. He says, you don't go into meditation for 20 minutes and stay completely thoughtless for that length of time. It doesn't work that way. He says, what you're paying attention to are the gaps between the thought. And from there comes the clarity. And the confusion is gone. Which brings me to number 7. More being and less doing. Anybody? This is such an important one. But you know what? It can be looked down upon, because we live in such a busy world that the spiritual practice of simply being can be viewed as being lazy or unproductive to people who don't understand. And yet so many people live from FOMO. You know what FOMO is? F-O-M-O, fear of missing out. That we run ourselves ragged trying to keep up so that we can do everything all the time. And then we wonder why we have conditions like adrenal fatigue and autoimmune disease and anxiety and panic attacks and heart issues and high blood pressure. Isn't it possible that those conditions come in part from too much doing and not enough being. We are human beings, not human doings. So allowing ourselves to just be in the present moment, being and breathing, is a great indication of healing. Which brings me to our last one, and that is more faith and less fear. Are you finding that as you heal? More faith and less fear. I saved this one for the last because to me it's the crux of this topic. Because when we have faith in the integrity of life, and I mean life with a capital L, when we have faith in the integrity of the universe, when we know that this really is an orderly universe and it is led by love, but it is run by law, when we trust that the things that are taking place around us can be healed by right thinking, then by our very nature, we have less fear. And it's challenging these days. We spoke last week, we spoke today about the fear-mongering that's going on, about viruses and elections and recessions and divisiveness and who else knows what else. If I really believed that that was the state of the world, it may be the material state, but if it was the true state of the world, I would be frightened. I'm sometimes get there. Sometimes I go there. But then I remind myself that conditions can change, that diseases can heal, that money is simply the flow of life. It is God in action. That political parties come and go. And I remind myself that my thoughts and beliefs are powerful. Here's how Ernest Holmes put it. So it becomes a question of whether our faith is greater than the obstruction, whether we are becoming confused over conditions or thinking peacefully and calmly about them. When it comes right down to the rock bottom fact, the only question is whether or not we believe in a power greater than we are that we can use, and whether or not we actually believe that this power is ready, willing, and able to respond to us. That is the key to faith. There is a power that is ready and willing to respond to us. So healing our minds, healing our bodies, healing our spirits means that we believe in this infinite intelligence, this divine mind, and this life force energy that is there to respond to us. I want you to just think about that for a second. That there is a limitless field of possibility that is intelligent, that is loving, and is waiting to express itself as us to our greatest potential. Does that make sense? But it works for us, and it works in us and through us according to our belief and our acceptance of it. Therefore, if we say it doesn't work, guess what? It doesn't work. I posted this on Facebook the other day. Ernest Holmes, funny, he says, I'm going to paraphrase this. Even if you think it doesn't work, it still works by not working according to your belief that it doesn't work. So you believe that it doesn't work, therefore it doesn't work. But even in it's not working, it's still working. So as we heal, mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, financially, we can do this knowing that there is this power that is working with us and through us because we are coming to understand how life works. So let's take a look again at these 8 signs. More observing, less judging. Raise your hand. More responding, less reacting. More self-love, less self-sabotage. More boundaries, less resentments. More inner peace, less outer chaos. More clarity, less confusion. More being, less doing. More faith, less fear. So if there's an area of healing, or maybe more than one, that you're still working with, I didn't see everybody's hand go up with all of them. I want you to remember, number one, observe but don't judge. In other words, observe, I've still got some work on that, but don't judge it. Number 5, inner peace, not chaos. And number 3, self-love. Love yourself. That is healing. And so it is. The bands out there, we clap a lot, so they kind of use that as the cue to come back in. Except for if we clap in the middle of the talk, they're like, oh, woo.